Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Riot have published the patch notes for patch 7.22 in advance of the actual patch by a couple of days, which means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, I'll be going through the biggest changes of the patch and letting you guys know what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks, or in this case, months, as this is the preseason patch that will be going live. This is the biggest preseason patch we have had to date. I do not care who you are or what your opinion is. This is it. This is going to shake up a ton of things about the game, and every single champion is going to be affected in some way. So expect a lot of change, and especially a lot of very risky changes potentially from Riot. Now, they have said they will be watching very closely to what happens when this patch goes live. So if things seem weird, if things seem broken, if things seem wrong, fear not, Riot will be looking to make quick adjustments when the patch does go live. Anyways, with that aside, let's go ahead and get into things. First off, this is a big patch. I cannot possibly cover everything that is being changed in this patch, or we would be here for an hour. So instead, I highly recommend you read the patch notes. I will have those linked down in the description of the video below. Please go ahead and take a look at those, as those will give you a much better idea of what exactly is going on. I'll just be going through very top-level changes. First up, the Runes update is coming in this patch. Runes and Masteries, as we know them, no longer exist. Now it's just one system called Runes. Instead of putting points down in different categories, instead you choose two paths, a primary and a secondary path, to pick runes from. Primary will give you 4 runes, including your keystone, and the secondary path will give you 2 runes, and you'll get some kind of benefit depending on which secondary path you choose. So if you're in sorcery and you choose a different secondary path, you'll get some bonus AD and AP, whereas if you're in a different category or a different primary path, you'll get a different bonus when you choose your secondary. This may change in the future. Let's go ahead and talk about these paths right now, actually. The Resolve path is the first one I want to talk about. This emphasizes enhancing your durability and your crowd control, so it'll be ideal on tanks and or tanky supports like Leona or Braum. First up, the Keystones. I'm just going to cover the Keystones here. So first you have Grasp of the Undying. Essentially it's the same as Live, but you also gain permanent maximum HP whenever you proc it. Next up is Aftershock. After you mobilize an enemy champion, you gain increased armor and magic resistance, and then after a brief delay, you'll explode to deal magic damage to nearby enemies based on your armor and magic resistance. Really good on initiators such as Malphite or possibly Sejuani, as they'll be in the middle of the enemy team when the Aftershock goes off. Finally, we have Guardian. You guard allies within 175 units or allies you target with spells. If you or the ally would take damage, you both get a shield and become hasted briefly. This is going to be excellent on wardens, such as Shen or Braum, or anyone who wants to defend their allied partner in lane. The next path is Domination. This is enhancing your burst damage and target access, so it's ideal on assassins and burst mages, as they want the most damage in the shortest amount of time. The keystones you can choose from are Electrocute, which is basically Thunderlords, but has to be separate attacks or abilities, so you can't proc it with just a Morgana Tormented Soil. The next one is Predator, which gives your boots an enchantment that grants bonus movement speed out of combat when you activate it, and causes your first attack after the boost to deal bonus damage. This does start the game on cooldown, and it is an active item tied to your boots, so you will need to actually press a button. This will be pretty favored, I think, across the board on champions like Hecarim or Rengar, as they'll be running around hunting down people and jumping on them for damage. Finally, Dark Harvest is the third Domination keystone. Enemies drop souls upon death. When you collect them, you'll deal bonus damage on your next attack within a short delay. If you gain enough soul essence, you can hold on to your bonus attack for a long period of time, and the more soul essence you collect, the more damage you'll get on your next attack. So this will be actually very effective on sort of farmy enemies or champions that are looking to have very high damage in the late game after farming it out. The third path is Precision, which generally enhances your basic attacks and grants you extra sustained damage. So ideally this will be looking at AD carries or fighters who are auto attack reliant, such as Kled or Aatrox. The keystones for Precision. The first one is Press the Attack. Hitting an enemy with 3 basic attacks will deal bonus damage and make them vulnerable, which increases all the damage they take for a short period of time. Next up is Lethal Tempo. Shortly after damaging an enemy champion, you gain bonus attack speed for a few seconds, which is extended as long as you remain in combat with enemy champions. This attack speed buff also allows you to exceed the attack speed cap. So if you're full build Kog'Maw and you get your Lethal Tempo proc, you will never have to worry about Lethal Tempo disappearing on you. Both of these are reasonable options for AD carries. I can also see something like, Lethal Tempo working on a champion like Kled or Aatrox who want to be auto-attack trading very effectively. Finally, Fleet Footwork is the third keystone. This is essentially the same exact thing as the current Warlord's Bloodlust. When you attack an enemy champion, or you gain energized stacks as you move, when you attack an enemy champion or an enemy unit, you gain bonus movement speed and will heal yourself very briefly based on the damage you deal. So it synergizes well. This will basically not change. The users of this will be essentially exactly the same. Next up is the Sorcery path, the fourth path. This focuses on increased ability damage and resource manipulation, so it's going to be very good on mid lane mages and on some supports. The keystones for Sorcery are Summon Airy, Arcane Comet, and Phase Rush. Summon Airy causes you to gain a small little familiar that follows you around. When you damage an enemy, or rather, when you target an enemy with an ability, or an ally with an ability, Airy will go out. She'll damage enemies if you targeted them, or shield an ally that you targeted. This means that if you did a zillion slow on an enemy, they would take damage. If you cast the same spell on an ally, they gain a shield. Airy has to come back to you before you can get the ability again. This also has some shenanigans where if you teleport and she's away from you, she'll have to go on an epic quest to get back to you. Should be fun. Next up, let's talk about Arcane Comet. Damaging an enemy or a champion with an ability hurls a comet that damages enemies in the area of effect, or reduces the cooldown of Arcane Comet if it was on cooldown. So this is pretty much the only option available to dot mages at the moment. I'm interested to see how it's actually going to pan out in game, but it's also good for champions that have long-range sniping abilities that have crowd control elements such as Lux's Light Binding. Finally, Phase Rush is the last keystone in Sorcery. It's essentially Thunderlords, but gives movement speed instead of damage. You hit them with 3 unique spells or auto attacks, and you gain a bunch of bonus movement speed. It's sort of like a combination of Storm Raider Surge and Thunderlord's Decree. Finally, the fifth path is Inspiration, which focuses on giving you creative tools and allowing you to bend the rules of League of Legends. The keystones are Unsealed Spellbook, Glacial Augment, and Kleptomancy. Unsealed Spellbook gives you the ability to swap out summoner spells in mid-game. You gain summoner shards as you cast summoner spells. When you have enough, you can exchange them on the summoner platform to gain a brand new summoner spell. Additionally, summoner spell cooldowns are all reduced for you by 25%. So if you want to start with Smite and swap to something better in the late game, you can do that. Glacial Augment is the second keystone. Auto-attacking a champion will slow them. If you use an active item to slow them, it creates a slowing field. So this will be good on champions that want to reduce the movement speed of enemy champions and keep them in range, such as Aurelion Sol. Finally, Kleptomancy is the last keystone in the Inspiration path. After you use an ability, your next auto attack will give you bonus gold. You can also gain consumables on this auto attack, including things like Elixirs of Experience or Elixir, or the bigger elixirs, even Oracle's Elixir you can gain with this. Sometimes it'll just be potions and biscuits though. Those are the mastery paths. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of weird building and rune tinkering with over the first couple of weeks, so we should all prepare for this and settle in. There is actually a page where you can sort of build out your page if you want to take a look at it, and I will have that link down in the description below. Next up, champions are all being adjusted because every champion is losing a small amount of stats just because of the loss of rune pages. So instead, every champion in the game is getting a small amount of bonus damage on their abilities or base stats or attack damage or something of the sort. You're going to have to look at all that yourself, as almost every single champion in the game has received changes. I'm not going to go through them all here. Suffice it to say, they're all relatively small tweaks. All support items now have Bandit Mastery, as Bandit is no longer a mastery you can actually take, so all support items now grant that to the owner, so you can gain gold whenever minions die nearby. Jungle XP has been adjusted, so it's not so good when you're behind, and all camps now count as 4 monsters no matter how big the camp actually is, so small raptors, for example, will count as 0.4 of a monster. This is to reduce the overall strengths of the jungle and that you can never really fall behind, to make it a little bit better. Next up, game start time has been reduced by 10 seconds, but the home start buff has been increased to compensate for this, so there will be a lot less downtime in the early game. Minions will be spawning and getting to lanes much more quickly. Levels are now uncapped, and by this I mean the summoner levels. When you level up in game, you level to 30. 30 is no longer the maximum. If you get all the way up to 30, you will continue being able to level. You can level infinitely, and you will gain boxes whenever you level up. You will no longer gain IP per game, though. You will only gain bonuses when you open your boxes. Sort of along the same lines, IP is being converted to Blue Essence. This is the new currency. Get used to saying BE instead of IP instead. You will mostly get BE from your level up boxes, but you can also get it by disenchanting champion shards. So that's a lot to take in. I get it. It's a lot of changes, and it's going to be really weird going forward. So again, take your time, learn the changes, experiment around, and let's get used to the next season of League of Legends coming soon. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Go ahead and let me know which changes you're most excited for down in the comment section below. There are a lot of changes to be excited about, so let me know which ones you are a fan of down in the comment section. If you enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoy the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. And if you're hungry for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, grabthelantern.tumblr.com. I have a link in the description below. I upload our League of Legends articles just about each and every single day for your pleasure. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.